Hi, welcome to this episode of Industry Voice. Today we have an awesome guest that's here with us. His name is Steve Mohr. How are you, Steve?
Excellent. How you doing?
Good. I'm excited to have you on the show. And it's been a while. It's been a while since I know you. I have known you forever.
Yeah, it's definitely both of our journeys have been interesting, but yeah, it's probably at least over 10 years since we first met. I think yeah, it's been a while. It's good stuff though.
So just go back in history for our audience. I have met Steve first in the Allstate community, where all the Allstate agents are. We've seen each other at shows, at events, at conferences, and then we keep on running into each other from LeadScon to, different shows. And, Steve, I'll let you tell the rest of the story, but you are an entrepreneur now. You were running the show before, and now you're building the show.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
I'm gonna turn the mic over to you, and you can give us a little bit of background about your journey, and we'd love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, I've definitely been around the insurance industry as a whole for a few decades. Maybe not a few sounds worse than it is, but more than a couple. But no, I started out in the insurance game, as a producer in an agency, back in the late 90s. Ended up running some agencies, and that was in the non-standard auto world here in Florida. So that was a riveting experience on a daily basis, but was always kind of drawn to the technology aspects more so than the, selling policies. So back quite some time ago, I jumped on with a company called eBridge, which at the time was a document management company. They were helping companies go paperless, and they initially focused actually on the commercial trucking world. And there was a family connection to some insurance agencies, and they started helping insurance agents go paperless. And that's, one of the really problems forever with insurance agencies is just managing the paper, being able to access documents. And they were one of the first ones in that space. They were doing great, and then found that not only did agents need help with paper, they also needed help managing customers, prospects, emailing, all the things that agents struggled with. And this was back in 09, 2010. So there weren't, a ton of options. So they built kind of a light agency management system called eAgent, and we caught fire within the Allstate community. I joined, and they had about 80 agencies, and within 18 months we had just about 2,000 agencies, and about 92% of those were Allstate agents, and Allstate ultimately ended up purchasing that product. So I kind of went from grinding every day, calling, doing demos, webinars, and we were signing up a couple people a day, myself and one other guy, and then Allstate bought it. So now all of a sudden I became kind of a product manager within the Allstate community to get people enrolled. So it was kind of a cool layout because it was the only software that was Allstate owned, but the agents still had to pay for it. And that's, we made it a small amount just so they kind of had some buy-in with it. And I would go to all the Allstate events around the country. So there was, I think, 14 regions at the time. So all the regional kickoffs. I would do the new agent training every month. They had a class every month. I would go do those. And I would visit with influential agencies to try and spread the word and do all the different things. So it was definitely an interesting transition. Did that for about 9 years. And then just kind of wasn't really excited with the corporate grind. I could still be there getting my 3% raise every year, and building up some pension that they would ultimately take away, which they've done quite a bit. But it's just kind of working there, and jumped in, wanted to get back into the technology game, selling, promoting, and led me to LightSpeed Voice, which was kind of a emerging / leading VoIP provider. They did great with Allstate as well, ironically enough, and met Brad Fuller there. We kind of talked each other into working together. Left Allstate, joined LightSpeed to lead sales and marketing efforts there. Really focused on the independent space. Again, they were really solid within Allstate. I didn't have a ton of experience in the independent space. Most of mine was within the Allstate world, so really had to do, both feet in, jumping in, trying to find out who the most important people were, what the events were, all those things, and met a couple key folks, built a couple key relationships, and really kind of was able to build some good foundations there over a couple years. And then kind of became the events guy. I was at all the events. People would ask me kind of what events I was going to, where I was going. And uh, that's kind of where the insurance index concept kind of started. I was building resources for myself, trying to figure everything out, realize that other people needed these things as well. And kind of as a side project, side hustle, whatever you want to call it, I started creating the insurancindex.com, not really knowing what direction I was going to go with it, as most people don't. And it just has kind of grown and grown and grown. Had some exciting growth, and obviously capitalizing on a lot of those relationships. So yeah, that's kind of the long version of kind of how I got to where I am, and it's led to some other really exciting opportunities we'll kind of touch on. But that's kind of been the journey. Started as a producer, went into technology, kind of worked small startups, massive corporations. I enjoy things about both, but it's kind of an exciting journey to be on now, as like you said, trying to build it and guide it is a fun thing.
I have a lot of questions, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to compartmentalize it and send them to you. How was that relationship first like when you first met Brad Fuller from LightSpeed Voice? Brad, I have met before. I have went down there to visit the
Yep.
headquarters right in Sarasota, and
Yep.
it was actually from your invite, right? And went down there, checked out the shop, met the team, amazing group of guys. When you went there, it was probably the rise of Lightspeed from the earlier days, and they were right in the thick of the competition at that time. It
Oh yeah.
was DYL, right? DYL.
Exactly. Follow up tool,
It was a math implement
DYL.
and follow up to, and Blitz was still,
Yeah,
used
absolutely.
by a lot of people, Velocify, and it was just a lot of competition in the marketplace. What was the thing that you and Brad said, hey, we're gonna be different? And then what did you learn from it to take it to your next journey? Like
Yeah,
if there's
absolutely.
any
So
takeaways.
yeah, Brad is obviously a very smart guy, very driven guy, and also a very caring guy, right? And I think that caring part is kind of what set him apart, set Lightspeed Voice apart, and then kind of drew me to the opportunity. So, even Ring Central, it was a competitor. So we always kind of joked, like, it gets $1 billion company we're competing against in a lot of cases. But what Brad figured out very quickly is that, the technology, the integrations aspect was as important as the core product, right? VoIP telecommunications is pretty much a commodity. You can get your phone service anywhere, but being able to connect with other technology, like screen pops were like the coolest thing ever, back in the day, where call came in and the customer popped up right in front of you. So without that, there would be no way to differentiate. So that, he focused in on the insurance space, then he focused in on the integrations, and then I kind of came into that. And that's how Brad and I met first when I was at Allstate. He approached us, and he was persistent and thoughtful about it. And we actually, my partner George at Allstate and I had to kind of convince people within Allstate to get the integration with the agent. And, once he got that, they grew hugely in Allstate, but then realized they needed to grow outside. I wanted to get back into that kind of that independent sales, kind of marketing role. So it happened pretty quickly. I think we'd been in touch. We met one time and then outlined what I felt would work. And then it was literally the next day. He's like, "Hey, come down to Venice, and let's see what we can do." And got to tour the office and met the people, and those people and the support, the differentiator. So I think that holds true today for them. It's even more crowded. Zoom's got their own phones, and they are still kind of the core go to for a lot of the cases, and it's because of the relationships, whether it's Hawksoft or Vertifor or NowCerts, all the companies that they've connected with to become the trusted advisor for VoIP. but yeah, Brad's a cool dude. We still stay in touch and love what they're doing, and they're expanding a little bit now. Trying to get into some other stuff. But because there was some challenges with Allstate, as there always is, but I think they're powering through and doing great.
Since I know about this, I want you to give our listener a little bit tease, all about all the things you're working on. And then if you can just go into them. Thank you for watching this video. Now a quick message from our sponsor, Mav.
Thanks, Jeff. I want to let you all in on a secret that top producing agencies don't want you to know about. If you're in P&C insurance, you know firsthand how much you're getting squeezed by your call center. It's becoming less predictable and less economically profitable to scale. But here's the thing. The top producing agencies making over $100 million are not running their leads through a human-based call center. They're running them through an AI expert like Mav to qualify, quote, and hand deliver the highest intent qualified leads to your agents. Mav takes care of the back and forth, having unlimited 24/7 conversations with your leads that are personal and relevant so you can scale to the moon. Ready to ditch your call center and 10x your agency? We're giving the listeners of insurtech $15,000 worth of credit to try Mav. Head to hiremav.com/insurtech to claim this offer.
I kind of started the insurance index really to be a resource for agents, right? That was my goal. And for vendors. So vendors, what events are out there? Agents, what are all these technologies? So I really started building a directory to connect those two communities. And kind of what happened was I really found out that the vendors really needed stuff more than the agents did, right? Because the agents they're kind of focused on their own agency. They can find what they need, but the vendors were really struggling making the connection. A lot of the newer startups didn't have staffing. So I ended up kind of not stumbling into, but kind of getting into some contract/consulting work to utilize my skills and relationships for a couple companies. And where it's kind of led me now, I'm still building the website. I've actually brought on a couple partners to really kind of take it to the next level now that we've kind of built the foundation. We've got some cool agreements in place. How do we now really put the pedal to the metal on content and then sales efforts? Because I just operationally and this other project I'll talk about just takes so much of my time. I don't have the capacity to do that. So again, you'll see a lot of exciting activity coming for that. Kind of the really cool project I'm working on now that came about from some conversations on the insurance index is that I'm building out a kind of all-in-one leads platform for NowCerts, and connected with them several months back, actually talking about getting them listed on the site, some partnership agreements, some affiliate agreements, and just through building that relationship, Michael Labor, who's now the president of NowCerts, and then Peter Germanoff, the CEO, approached me and said, hey, we're building a lot of cool stuff. We've got a commercial rater coming out. They're building a premium finance rater, and then obviously the core products that they've got on the AMS and the CRM. But kind of the first piece of all of that are leads, and there's a huge demand for leads, and the lead space is very complex and confusing, which I totally agree with. And I've always kind of been a skeptic or critic of the lead space, I would say. Because it's a difficult space, and there's been a lot of noise in it over years. So it's kind of cool to come in now and try and build something that's going to be really a kind of a fair is probably not the right word, but really accessible to everybody, understandable, and the goal really with the core product, it'll be called LeadX, which is kind of neat because we want to kind of encapsulate all aspects of leads. So for agents, there'll be a agency portal they can log into, and kind of the easiest thing they can do is actually just purchase leads from multiple leads vendors. So instead of having to go out to 4 or 5 vendors, we can actually just create orders within there. We fulfill the order and are a pass through for those leads. And then kind of the really fun thing we're working on is a peer-to-peer leads network of agencies. So agents, whether they get a lead that they can't write because they're not licensed in that state, they don't have market access, it's an existing customer that they're not comfortable writing a certain product for because of their level of expertise, they'll be able to put that lead out into this exchange, and then there'll be a network of agencies across the country that have been obviously vetted and sourced that can actually pick that lead up. And the goal is obviously there's a give and take throughout the process, and that'll be kind of part of the eligibility to be a part of it, is that you're not just taking, you're actually giving. So that's just kind of a really fun project. It's not something that's really out there. I think like I've said, there's probably 100 Facebook groups where that's happening, where people are saying, hey, I need help with this particular lead. We want to formalize that. And then kind of the last piece is true lead generation. So we want to not only build out our own, or not want to, we are building out actually 2 sources for lead generation, focusing on the commercial side. And then we want to help agencies generate their own leads via their website. There's a lot of regulations coming down, and being able to generate your own leads is going to be a critical aspect. And not that it hasn't been over the past probably 5 or 7 years, but now even more, being able to generate your own leads is going to be a huge thing. So, so I'm spending honestly probably about 70%, 80% of my time is on Momentum LeadX. And that's why I've kind of brought on the others to help with the insurance index. But yeah, it's great. It's exhilarating, exhausting, and all the things at once.
Which one do you think you'd be working on and focusing on the most coming up? You have a lot on your plate.
Yeah,
So-
no, it's a great question, and it's one I battle with on an hourly basis, probably. Obviously the insurance index is, something I, created, built, from everything from the name to the website to the colors, all the things I've kind of done, and definitely want that to continue to grow. I became aware enough, I wasn't aware enough initially, became aware enough that I don't have all the skill sets and all the necessary commitments to kind of blow that out to where it needs to be. So again, I've brought on somebody to just do 100% content, because as you know, that's a content game. I'm not the guy that's on Facebook and LinkedIn throughout the day, kind of posting multiple times and all that. So brought somebody on to do that. And then I brought somebody on to do the sales aspect as well, because that's right. You got to generate revenue at some point. So whether it's partnerships or affiliate agreements or just driving traffic, brought somebody on to do that. So that definitely focused on building that. I just feel that, kind of as you go, this LeadX project is something that very quickly, obviously with the backing of an amazing company like NowCerts, that actually draws a lot of parallels back to LightSpeed Voice, with how they treat their customers, the relationship they have with their customers. We've got about 1,500 plus agencies using the core product. So, to be able to build something with that kind of access and is a pretty exciting thing. So time-wise, I'm definitely spending most of my time on that, because again, it's a solo project now. I've obviously got a lot of resources from the NowCerts world, but still agency contact, building out the concepts, having meetings, feedback meetings, and all those things they're pretty time consuming. So yeah, I'd love to say both, but I know that's not always possible. But yeah, it's a daily, hourly struggle. I try and time block a lot, so I don't totally forget about one aspect of it. But time blocking has been huge, and sticking to that has been a critical piece.
Can you talk a little bit about NowCerts? How has that relationship started to form, and then the partnership after that?
Yeah, so it actually goes a little further back than that. So I'd connected with Michael Labor. He had a company called Insurance Gig, which was really kind of is a Zapier for insurance, right? So it was a really cool concept. Actually was doing some work with Better Agency and connected with Michael at that time. We were looking to potentially make them our kind of integration source. Made that connection, never really kind of connected, but I always loved the concept. Michael's a big thinker, real motivated guy. So we kind of fizzled on the Better Agency aspect, but then we connected on the index and said, hey, there's got to be something here. Like I'm working with the agents and vendors directly. You're trying to build this connecting point on the technology side. So let's work together to figure it out. And then kind of as that journey was going on, Michael had connected pretty strongly with Peter at NowCerts. And I think it was probably over several months that, was probably 3 months that I was aware of, but they actually ended up coming together. NowCerts and Insurance Gig merged. Michael's now the president of NowCerts, with Peter still maintaining the CEO relationship. So I had known Peter, from events and different things within NowCerts, but never really met a bunch. And we just kind of said, hey, let's give this thing 3 or 4 months and prove it out. So I basically went off into the wild and started building it out, building the pipeline, building a leads distribution platform. And then we kind of agreed, heck, probably in May, it was probably where we kind of said formally, like, all right, we love it, we want to do it, we're going to put some resources behind it. And it's just been a wild ride since then, as far as just trying to harness. The challenge with NowCerts is there are so many agencies, but then there's also so many projects, so you don't want to pepper people too much with overload on helping out and beta and doing all these things. So yeah, it's been a good burn. I'll even go back to like my Allstate days. I was in meetings where they were talking about budgeting, $100 million over 4 years to build an all-in-one insurance platform, which they've tried to do multiple times and still haven't. But NowCerts is actually, I would say, as close as anyone's ever been. And again, it's not an all-in-one system. It's an all-in-one platform or ecosystem where everything is connected. So the lead comes in, however that lead comes in, and then it'll flow into the rater, flow into the premium finance module, bind it, and then it pops into the AMS. And the cool thing is the way we're building is that it doesn't have to be our thing throughout the whole process. If you're using agency Zoom, good for you. We'll pump it into there. If you're using your own favorite rater, that's fine. We'll pump it into there. So we're clearly focusing on our own products, but if others are being used, we're fine with that. And I think that's a huge decision and the correct one as we go. I always say, like, the last thing I've ever wanted to do is change an agency's processes that's being successful and potentially hinder that. So if you got something that's working, we're not going to mess with it. We're just going to enhance in whatever way we need to.
So now that you are in the lead space, what's it like to be in the lead space and talk to agents about leads?
Yeah, it's interesting because I have yet to call an agent or talk to an agent that says, I love buying leads. They love the results, but in general, the leads world is a tough one. It's tough to generate them. It's tough to sell them. It's tough. It's all just tough. And I've said it, I think, probably on every podcast I've been on. Like, I've more respect in the world for insurance agents than anybody, pretty much, because it's a hard job. And especially in the personal line space for leads, that leads getting 4 or 5 agencies, and it's just a race to try and get them. And typically when you call the people, they're not real excited anyway. So it's kind of why we're focusing on the commercial space out of the gate, I would say. I think we can be more exclusive with the leads. There's less volume, so it's not such a massive race. And business owners are typically more easy to talk to, whatever you want to call it, because they're looking for help in a lot of cases. So we will do personal lines. It's definitely a part of the strategy. We've already got a couple agencies getting personal lines through us, but yeah, it's tough. And even with the vendors, talking with the vendors, the lead generation is, it's just a science that they've got mastered. And so, it's one of those things when the agents kind of shrug it off and, get upset. It's like, these companies exist for a reason. It's because it's very hard to find people that want to buy insurance, and at the pace that they can do it, it's great. And yeah, it's a numbers game in a lot of cases. We want to make that a little better. We want to be able to enrich data within existing systems. There's so many data sources out there that we can pull from an AMS or a CRM, freshen it up with new data, potentially do some outbound dialing on behalf of the agency, and then feed them back as newer, fresher leads. So yeah, we got to be nimble. We got to kind of adjust, but I think a centralized, standardized core will do the industry a ton of good.
And this leads is in mostly commercial or personal line?
Right now, we're focusing on commercial, just as we kind of build the pipeline, build the systems. It's kind of thing. I would say, if you're buying 2 or 3 commercial leads a day, you're going to be pretty busy in a small agency just because of trying to get them quoted and contacted and all that. It's hard to build something when you've got somebody buying 10, 20, 50 leads a day and trying to manage that without screwing up their flow. If, I've got about 20, I think we're at 23 agencies right now buying the commercial leads through us. And that may be doing 2 or 3 a day. So if there's a minor hiccup, nobody's day is going to get ruined. I can go back and fix something pretty quickly. But the goal will be all of it. We want to do everything from A to Z and just continue to build it out. But the commercials definitely, it's an easier space to get started in.
When you say A to Z, are you referring to a rater as well?
Yeah, so commercial line rater is out there and active, working on getting different markets in there. I interact with that part of the business, kind of on a daily basis, I would say, but we're not quite totally integrated there. As again, commercial rater is a needed thing. It's a very difficult thing. So they're testing that with a few agencies now, but they've been successful. And now it's just a matter of adding the companies and the all those fun things. But yeah, like I kind of said, the goal is get the lead in, do the proposal quote. We've got the premium finance rater, which is actually spitting out agreements now. I know rater is probably not the right term, but
So hold on a second. You have a commercial rater and you have a premium financing rater.
yeah. So the premium finance is cool. It's actually a Google Chrome extension in certain cases where, you're in your AMS NowCerts and you're typing in information. You actually hit a button. It'll pull data over and generate quotes from multiple premium finance companies, and then you can select and push that contract through on the same screen. So that's pretty slick and something that's new out there. So yeah, I mean, that's the goal is literally one screen, push it through the flow. And then obviously it would get pumped into the AMS and you would build out your automations there to nurture that customer.
I'm gonna put all your links in the
Yes.
in the comment section. I'm gonna put Steve's link in the comment section and how to get in touch with Steve, how to schedule a demo. When do you think you guys are gonna be ready to schedule a demo? Thank you for all your support to our channel. Here is a quick word from our sponsor. Please click on the link below in the comment section to sign up for a demo with Track AI.
What if your insurance sales conversations could work harder for you? Meet Track, your AI-powered conversation intelligence partner. Track automatically captures and analyzes every customer interaction, providing instant call summaries, risk analysis, and AI-driven coaching insights. Say goodbye to manual note-taking and hello to more selling time. Track handles the admin work while you handle the revenue. Fully integrated with your favorite platforms. Plus, get custom AI analysis tailored to your unique business needs. Transform your sales team's performance with Track. Visit track.ai today.
Click the link in the description below to schedule a demo with Track today.
For the leads project, we are gathering a couple beta groups. So I would love, if agents are out there, we definitely want a strong group for the peer-to-peer agency network where, initially it might just be a Slack group, potentially an interface we're building, but yeah, it would just really form the rules, right? So how do we want to handle the monetary aspect of it? What are the guidelines to be engaged? And, is it by geography, by specialty, all those kinds of things. So we're definitely looking for agents on that. The rater and the premium finance module, I could certainly put folks in touch there. That's not my, my day-to-day, but we can get there. And then obviously on the index, would love to hear from anybody interested in getting listed or getting featured. If they have events or have companies that they want people to know about, reach out. So yeah, actually, I think you and I chatted not too long ago and I created a link tree. So hopefully that'll help out and definitely contact. But yeah, I've got kind of the two from an email standpoint, Steve@NowCerts.net or Steven.Mohr@theinsurancindex.com. But yeah, would love to get that information out there. And even if people just want to talk about the industry, I love it. It's my passion. And I love the younger folks getting into the industry. I'm always happy to give my time and help there. My travel's been significantly less lately. I was on the road for about 35 weeks a year for about a decade, but picking and choosing pretty much these days. So you won't see me that much on the road, but I'll be out there a little bit over time.
Go back to your old lifestyle. right? When you were traveling like 35 weeks a year, you were part of Allstate community, right? And you hung around farmer agents, independent agents, being around 14 Allstate regions, right? Our old stomping ground with eAgent LightSpeed. If you have one visit, which one's your favorite visit? Which region?
So yeah, I always kind of, I think there's a business answer to that and a fun answer to that. But
Let's go with the fun one.
yeah, with the fun, well, true conferences, like going back to the Allstate, I think the mega agency conference is just about one of the best, because they always picked incredible venues. It's a smaller group of about 100 people, and everything was just totally first class. I've always loved, like, going back.
We'll send a shout out there. Shout out to Chris Burke and
Totally.
Wally O'Kane.
I think it's actually coming up, or is it coming up, or it just happened, or something? But yeah, I mean, I did Salt Lake City for them, obviously Vegas a couple times, and that was always a great event. But yeah, and then Hawksoft events, I feel like, the Hawksoft national event from the independent space is always a great one. Yeah, Vertifor obviously puts on a huge, incredible show. But yeah, I think clearly, if you're looking at my video, I'm a golfer, so got to play Torrey Pines out in San Diego as part of my travels, and TPC Scottsdale in Arizona. So I'm 100% a warm weather guy. I have very little interest in winter. So anywhere hot. Palm Springs is phenomenal. Scottsdale's great. And obviously I've been in Florida for about 30 years now, so I do love me some Florida.
So out of all the fun ones, you go with Mega Agent Group event?
I think if I had to, like, if you can only do one a year, obviously I haven't been to Mega in gosh, probably 4 years, but yeah, that was one I definitely looked forward to every year.
There was one that you and Brad put on a couple of years ago. It was a Mega Agent event, I think in Orlando. It's like maybe longer, like 7, 8 years ago. And you guys had the Gator Tour. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yes.
And it was like speedboat or on the Swamp on the Everglades, and then you fly around passing by
Oh yeah.
Snakes and gators. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, we did Salt Lake one was the last one we did, or I did, and we did a High West Distillery whiskey tour. That was fun. Yeah, that was always a good one. But yeah, the Allstate events, each region kind of had their own thing, so it was never boring. And then the insurance agency circuit, independent agency circuits, it's a grind. All the state associations and all the things. But yeah, I feel like I made the most of it.
Well, anyone see Steve on any of the conference events coming up, make sure you go say what's up and say hi to him. And Steve, I'm looking forward to have you on the pod a year from now.
100%.
When you come back a year from now, what are some of the most comfortable goals you have in the next year and uncomfortable goal you have over the next year?
Yep. Yeah, no. So again, kind of going back on the insurance index, website usage, number of partnerships should be exploding. Content will be on autopilot, which is great, and that'll obviously take my new partner as well as myself to get that going. And then on the Leads platform, I feel like a year from now, we're going to have, as many as 500 agencies on the platform, buying, selling, trading agents, trading leads, helping agencies generate leads on their own, all those things. I think that's going to be a really quick mover, which is why I'm, kind of excited and kind of willing to take a little bit of my eye off the prize on the insurance index, is really to kind of build this leads platform quickly. That can be truly, the goal is for that to be a separate business unit with NowCerts. So definitely excited for that prospect. And then, I think just having enough great partnerships and good resources to continue the growth.
Steve, thank you very much for coming on the pod, and
Absolutely.
Looking forward to have you back.
100%, man. I'm sure we'll see you and talk to you.
Have a good one, Steve.
All right, bye.